Oh my god, we're so back, guys. We're so back. The Fantastic Four Final Steps might be the best superhero film of 2025, and I think the MCU is having a major comeback right now. Is what I would say if I were completely brain dead, if I were lobotomized. Now, it's not the worst thing in the world, and it's definitely not the worst Fantastic Four adaptation.
It's fantastic.
Say that again?
It's fantastic.
Yes, it is.
But it did fall short narrative and action-wise, and it was kind of boring half the time, which doesn't seem right when you think about its runtime of under 2 hours, because how do you have a relatively short film that is even remotely bland or boring? That's basically a paradox. But before I start sounding like a professional hater, let me tell you a little bit about this version of the Fantastic Four and the things that this film got right. For starters, you don't have to have a pretentious level of knowledge about any other MCU films to understand the context of Fantastic Four First Steps.
If it's a nerd, I'm gonna bash his head in. Nerds get nowhere in life.
All you need to know is that it takes place on Earth 828, and this alternate reality has a very cool retro-futuristic aesthetic that's different from Earth 616, which is what's featured in the main MCU timeline, but I honestly could care less about any of that. A really impressive thing about this film is that it didn't get hung up on exposition. We got this super brief rundown of how the group got their powers in the form of a newsreel, and we're immediately brought into the story 4 years after the group became these celebrity astronaut superheroes, which was kind of refreshing given the pacing and the heavy exposition we see in some other MCU films.
What do you mean? It's complicated. Hey, it's complicated,
It
right?
is.
It's complicated.
Uncomplicated. Ladies out.
I also think that every actor offered up a serviceable performance, and not to jump on the Pedro Pascal bandwagon or anything, but he portrayed the leader, Reed Richards, really well. However, the mustache.
Oh my god, bro. Oh, hell no, man. What the?
Was preventing me from being fully immersed and associating Pascal with Richards, but aside from that and his lack of stretching all over the place, I'd say we got a solid impression of Mr. Fantastic as a stressed out, compassionate genius. We also got to see the Invisible Woman with a serious level of control over her powers, which were reinforced by her instincts as a new mother and her desire to keep her son safe. We got to see this clever and intellectual side of the Human Torch, which was overlooked in Tim Story's iteration of the Fantastic Four.
You are Trouble.
Trouble is my middle name.
Oh, you're hot.
Why, thank you, so are you.
And we got to see the sweet and humorous side of the Thing, which is more consistent with how the character is portrayed in the comics, all of which allowed for the characters to become more relatable, and I think it added this genuine element of nostalgia and likability to the film. Some other partially great things about this version of Fantastic Four are the depictions of Galactus and Shalla-Bal. We got to see Galactus personified for the very first time. The other times he came up in the MCU were just in passing conversation or through obscure depictions of basically nothing. So seeing Galactus at full scale, at full power, and engaging in like casual conversation with the Fantastic Four was pretty cool. It could have been cooler, but it was cool, I guess. And we also got this unique portrayal of the Silver Surfer, which managed to be non-derivative of the other Silver Surfers we've seen on screen. And don't arrest me for this, but I'm still of the opinion that the Silver Surfer we got in 2007 just had matchable aura and swagger about him, and it's not because it's the male version, but because he was just more nonchalant and the depiction of his powers were just a lot cooler, and the CGI was also just a lot better. But that doesn't mean that seeing Shalla-Bal as a new variation of Silver Surfer sucked entirely, because she also had crazy aura. She literally had Johnny wrapped around her finger, decoding her mother tongue so he could talk to her, and we also got something of a backstory which explains why she became the Herald of Planets for Galactus to consume. And all of this not only helps you to empathize with the character, but it also adds a lot more weight to her redemption arc when,
Spoiler!
she turns against Galactus and helps the Fantastic Four defeat him. Now, as an MCU film, it's pretty decent because it's short and to the point. It avoids the kind of bad humor that the MCU is known for, and it fully embraces the unique dynamic that the Fantastic Four have of being a real family instead of being a family of colleagues like the Avengers or the X-Men. But this also doesn't mean that it's a great film, because there's so much more that should have and could have been, should have happened, but didn't, and the only thing that's keeping me together is the hope, the faith I have in Avengers Doomsday, and if that disappoints, just lobotomize me, please. Take me out of my misery.
I hate the way that you walk, the way that you talk. I hate the way that you dress. Surprise, you wanted that feature request. You know that we got some shit to address.
Okay, let me start with the CGI, because that's typically what pisses me the off most about superhero and sci-fi films. The CGI was weird, as per usual, and because I watched it in 3D, it was weirder because it felt like I was immersed in a virtual reality that was coded by a child or something. We see the Fantastic Four go through a wormhole in an attempt to evade the Silver Surfer, and the scene was cool and all, minus the lighting and physics and texture and complete lack of realism. And for anyone who says, oh, well, how can black hole physics be realistic? I'm here to tell you that it can, because it's been done before by talented special effects artists like Paul Franklin and Scott R. Fisher. And aside from the ugly, chopped, busted down CGI, the narrative lacked structure, the pacing was slow, and the climax was kinda uneventful as fuck. And these might be my biggest grievances with the film, because they had all the opportunity in the world to create a more engaging narrative, especially since they didn't need to spend much time establishing how the Fantastic Four got their powers. But instead, most of the film was conversation, and a majority of that conversation is what I refer to as erectile dysfunction dialogue, the way it's redundant, impractical, and only partially leads to a buildup of the very tension that it tried so hard to establish. There were some okay moments, like when the Silver Surfer was chasing the group through the black hole and when they faced off against Galactus, but even during the final battle, Galactus was just walking around Godzilla style for most of the scene. Johnny tried to blind Galactus a few times, the Thing tried to knock him over, and Reed, I don't know what good he served apart from devising the plan, because he barely used his fucking powers, which resulted in Sue having a mog-off with Galactus and basically dying because she force-fielded him too hard. And although the stakes were enormous, with the life of Sue and Reed's son Franklin literally being on the line here, the fight scenes and the entire film was still boring because they just talked too much. And they also didn't make the best use of the characters and their powers, because you're telling me Galactus has cosmic powers and we're just seeing him stomp around eating punches? Why? Because the Fantastic Four is so powerful, even though we didn't get to see them fight that long or that well? Say psych right now. Say April Fools. Tell me the joke's up. Cause I beg you the finest of pardons, Marvel. There was so much potential for Fantastic Four to be absolutely mind-blowing, but instead, my mind feels like it's been robbed of 1,000 brain cells. And I think what's worse is that the post-credit scene also sucked, because that's an MCU staple. All we see is Doctor Doom's back as he kneels down to speak to Franklin, who's now about 5 years old or something. And we already knew that Franklin was important and powerful because, spoiler, he brought his mom back from the dead. And Galactus also believed that Franklin was powerful enough to take his place as Eater of Worlds, which was something they didn't really explain one bit. But going into theaters knowing that this is the setup for Avengers Doomsday, yeah, we could have gathered that Doctor Doom was coming for Franklin. The most they could have done was showed us something cool. Give us a face reveal or something, even though we already know who's playing the character. Show us some ass, show us a side profile. But just the back?
Are you serious right now, bro?
So, Fantastic Four, huh? More like Unfantastic Four. More like Fantastically Ordinary Four. It gets a 2.5-star rating in my book. Maybe a 3 if I'm feeling particularly generous, but I'm not. And I do feel like a bit of a pariah because I'm the only person I know who didn't go absolutely apeshit for Fantastic Four. So, if you agree, let me know so we can be haters in unison. And if you disagree, also let me know so I can tell you exactly why you're wrong and so we can get you lobotomized as soon as possible.